Go ahead. Okay, so now we're going to outline body paragraph. So, body paragraphs. I can do 2 or 3 with this one, and honestly, I don't have enough space to do it. We're using the SEA format. I made that up, guys. It's not like a thing that you can Google because I made it up. It's summarize, evidence, analysis, because we've talked about 3 types of evidence: summarizing, direct quotes, and paraphrasing. Those are how you present evidence in English. So skip the topic sentence. We don't want to see her yet. We'll leave that empty. We're going to do summarizing. And we're going to do evidence. I need evidence first. Me, I'm an evidence first, then summarizing, then analyzing kind of kid. The reason why I do it in this order is because, as you heard me speak to Akitaka, if you write it top to bottom, it'll be just a stream of consciousness, the best you can do on the spot. And that's not where we are in high school. You should be drafting by the time you get to high school. The first thing you write will only be that good until about 9th grade, and then your teachers are going to start to hone in on you, and you will feel discombobulated. Why wasn't it good anymore? It's worked in the past. And up through middle school, they just want you to write in comprehensive English. But in 9th grade and up, they want you to make sense. So, it is a challenge for native English speakers. So if you are doing English as a second language, my advice is Japanese and English are like backwards. They're the reversal of each other. So if you're constructing an argument in Japanese, almost flip it exactly backwards, and that would be the English format. Yes? You're going to hear me say that again later. Let's see, which one shall I do? Would you guys like me to outline the different from the hero's journey or the same as the hero's journey? Different, same, different. I got my notes for different. Okay. So evidence would be multiple mentors, right? So what is a mentor comes to mind. So the mentor is someone who offers guidance. So Cry offers guidance and he's rejected. Anita is an obvious mentor. I don't know if I agree that the mentors are trees because they're just kind of like guidance. Okay, so then, now. Did we get a name? Oh, it's web, right? What's the ocean one?
Echo.
Echo. Good job. So then, the idea that I want to talk about is how there's not one mentor, there's many mentors. Yes? So, what I need to do in my evidence is introduce the idea of what I think is happening, right? Buxton's presenting a world in which ST is guided and supported through his hero trials by a network of animals and I'm going to say plants. I'm going to say a natural network comprised of aura, which is the air, echo, which is the ocean, and web, which is the underground. And I would say if I'm thinking about that, how do I know that that's different from a hero's journey? Because we see no people surviving that way. We see people having failed their own trials, right? We see dead people everywhere. So what we're looking at is, I'm going to say this is juxtaposition. About how humans handle the crisis and how animals handle a crisis. Because it is not like the animals are just out free, right? It's not like humans all died and everything's perfect. They're at war now that the balance has been disrupted. There's like plant war, there's like the rabies, there are like wild, like giant animals walking around, and they have their own war. So then they are also unbalanced because of this great change. But they've handled it in a totally different way than the people, right? The people tried it with their, they had overly depended on technology, which meant that they had no way of protecting themselves when technology became the virus. So we juxtaposition against the failure of humans, to communicate, because all of their communications were tech-based, right? So like the example that comes to mind is the painted banner that says like, tell so-and-so I love him, don't use your phone. How are you supposed to tell people you love them in a disaster without your phone? We literally don't have the same method of communication that she's created in this book. And the animals behave like, the people turned away from like being connected to the natural world. So in their minds, it was like a choice. Like we could have been listening to nature, but we don't, right? So that is in the world that she has created, right? So again, not what you personally believe, because I mean, this is a fictional book, but in the world she's created, the animals are all working together. There seems to be some kind of camaraderie, right? Even though they like argue, they fight, they're not the same personality, and some animals eat other animals, there is some kind of like acknowledgement of life and balance. Whereas the humans, they failed in the book because the only method that they had to communicate even with each other was technology. Like they literally are just painting on walls. Yes, so then that's my evidence. So then analysis of this is that the hero's journey structure is used to humanize ST. Now remember, this is coming after my first paragraph. So we use the hero's journey to make him like a realistic, like human-like character. We empathize with him, right? This allows us to empathize with him. And then we switch. The juxtaposition of communication in the natural world versus human communication. She emphasizes it through ST's perspective. Like a person, like one, he's initially very disdainful of animals. Right? He doesn't like animals, especially birds. He thinks that they're not dumb, but also kind of like not even worth acknowledging, because he has been personally traumatized for the identity things. Like he's been made fun of in Aura, and so then he doesn't participate. He didn't even know about the other things. He has been living his life like a human. So ST's perspective provides us with a human perspective. So I can really understand Buxton's perspective here. She thinks that we don't respect nature enough. That's like really obvious, right? She spends a lot of time convincing us that we should be more respectful of other animals, and then discovers complex culture and community. So he thought all the animals were just living on their own, not talking to each other unless they like fit in perfectly. He was very disdainful of them. And then he discovered a complex culture. He didn't completely become a bird, but he came to acknowledge the strength of their like abilities, of that network, of that community and that culture. So we take it back, disconnected from each other in the natural world, mentors, so notice I did not spend a lot of time describing who Cry was and what he did, who Onita is and what she did, who the trees are, right? The focus is fully on what was their purpose in the story. And then I would use the summary to explain who these characters are so you don't get lost. That would be the appropriate summary. Do I go back and explain who ST is? No, because that's going to be in my intro. That is the most basic information you need to understand the book. That goes in the intro. So then in the summary, ST receives guidance, though sometimes unwanted, from Cry, the leader of the crows. I'm gonna say wild crows because I could say college crows, which is more accurate, but it doesn't make sense to someone who hasn't read the book. College crows doesn't make sense. Sounds like college crows who went to college. The leader of the wild crows, Onita, an octopus that acts as an oracle. That would be my Greek mythology knowledge, right? In Greek mythology, you get a mentor, it tells the future. It says you're gonna, it's always like a double-bladed sword, like you will be very successful, but you will also never be happy in your whole life. That's kind of what an oracle does, tells the future in a very broad way. An octopus that acts as an oracle, and trees, various trees that are interconnected and sage-like. So sage is like a Socrates, like very, very wise, mysterious. So a sage would cover that instead of me having to say they're mysterious, or they're full of secrets, they're Yoda, right? So we've got many little teeny tiny notes. So now I have my 3 things, right? See how messy this is? Why paper? If I had a longer paper, I'd be putting like 5 spaces between each one so that I have enough space. And unfortunately, I only have a whiteboard. So now I have my evidence. Evidence is going to be not just one little tiny metaphor, but the use of that metaphor with other stuff to build a whole idea out. And then the purpose is to show us, this part shows us the disconnected from each other problem. Yes? We learn to like that they're disconnected from each other. Okay, this is my first